If the Rams are going to go anywhere during the second part in the postseason, they're going to need to fix one incredibly important part of their game. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single day, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. My name is Travis Rogers. Thanks for making us a part of what you do. Click that subscribe button in your podcast feed. Make sure you check us out on Locked On Rams on YouTube as well. That's a great way to take in the pod. You can also follow me on Twitter at Travis Rogers. Not only do I host the Locked On Rams podcast, but I am also the host of the Rams pregame, halftime, and post-game show on their flagship station, ESPN 710. We start 2 hours before kickoff of that game, and then immediately after, Kirk Morrison and myself, we will have all of your Rams post-game. So if you are in and around Los Angeles, I would suggest that you check that out as well. Plus, I host the Travis and Sliwa show. That is every day from 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. on that very same ESPN 710 right here in LA. Let me remind you that today's pod is brought to you by PrizePicks, right? PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. Pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than their PrizePicks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on your entry. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code Locked On. That's PrizePicks.com, promo code Locked On. All right, here's what we have scheduled on the pod today. I want to talk about the impact or lack thereof that Van Jefferson had against the 49ers. Had some high hopes for him coming back and seeing what he could bring to this offense, which has really struggled to get on track. We'll get into that in just a little bit. Cooper Kupp injury update. Hold your breath, cross your fingers, get your rabbit's foot out, whatever it is that you believe in, start doing it, because if he goes down, whoa boy, we'll get into that in just a couple of minutes as well. But let's start right here. Let's start with the one thing. If this team is going to go somewhere, if this team is going to win more games than it loses, and really at this point in the season, that might be the goal, to be 9-8. To be a team on the right side of 500, that feels like a team that gets into the playoffs in the NFC. Coming up on tomorrow's Locked On Rams, I want to talk about that NFC playoff picture because this is basically set. There are 7 spots in each conference. 6 of them, I think, in the NFC are already kind of locked in, which means the Rams are fighting with about 5 other teams to grab that last spot. But if you're going to get in there, if you're going to make a run, if your philosophy at this one, and I think this is what you kind of have to hang your hat on at this point in the season, let's get in and see what happens. Let's get in, and maybe our experience, maybe Sean McVay, maybe Matthew Stafford and Aaron Donald and Cooper Kupp and all of these guys that are stars in this league can play like it for a month, and we can make another run and see what happens, because otherwise, I don't know what we're doing here. But to just get on the right side of 500, to just get to the point where you could be 9-8, and maybe in a really, really good turn of events, you can get to 10-7. If they don't run the ball, it doesn't matter. And I'm not saying you have to go out and find Derrick Henry. I'm not saying that you have to go and find the equivalent of Christian McCaffrey, and we saw what he made the 49ers look like last week. And obviously the trade deadline, maybe by the time you've heard this, it's come and gone. By the time that when I'm recording this right now, there are still several hours before it goes down. We know that the Rams use the trade deadline to their advantage pretty typically, but I'm not even talking about going and finding a guy. If they do, great. I'm talking about taking the guys that you have and making them better, because look, here's where the Rams are. The Rams have played 7 games. The Rams' leading rusher this season is Darrell Henderson, who has 197 yards. That is under 4 yards a carry on his 50 attempts, right? Just shy of that 4-yard mark. His long run is 18 yards this season. 18. He's averaging 28 yards a game. That's your best guy. Cam Akers, who may or may not be back after the trade deadline. We'll see. I'm still highly skeptical that they're going to be able to bring him back in after the way that everything's gone. He's even worse. He's got 151 yards. He's averaging 3 yards a carry. His yards per game is slightly better at 30 instead of 28. These are your top 2 backs. Your second best running back is Cooper Kupp, who's carried the ball 6 times. This is simply not good enough. We've seen Ronnie Rivers come in, and no. We've seen them try to get Malcolm Brown going. He's a short yardage guy. I get it. The offensive line has been less than ideal. The offensive line has been makeshift all season long, but it is getting a little healthier. You've got Jackson at left tackle, which is his more natural spot. We saw Brian Allen come back last week, and it seemed like the offensive line was better. Maybe not great, but certainly better. You have to be able to run. If you are one-dimensional, and the Rams are the ultimate one-dimensional team at this point, I don't care how good Matthew Stafford is, and I think he's really good still. I don't care how good Cooper Kupp is. I still think for my money, he might be the best wide receiver in football. But I'm telling you, it doesn't matter if the other team doesn't need to worry about you running the ball at all. Think about this. Derrick Henry had over 200 yards, and I get it. Derrick Henry is an outlier. There's Derrick Henry, there's Saquon, and then there's everybody else, right? I'm not saying you have to find Derrick Henry, but Derrick Henry had over 200 yards on Sunday. Darrell Henderson, through 7 games, doesn't have 200 yards. That's insane. You can't win football games in the NFL never running the ball. You don't have to have a guy that's running. You don't have to have prime Todd Gurley. You don't have to go find the second coming of Eric Dickerson. You just need to find somebody that can run the ball, get about 4 yards per carry, give it to him 15 or 20 or 22 times a game, and make the opposing defense worry about it. Because even when they know the Rams are going to throw, when the Rams, they still know that guy's not going to hit him for a big one because they don't hit anybody for a big one. This is the number one. If they're going to get better, they don't have to turn into the 1970s and 80s Houston Oilers with Earl Campbell or Barry Sanders with the Lions a million years ago. They can still be a pass first team, but they can't be a pass only team. And that's what they've become. They throw it, and they'll try to run it occasionally. So 1st and 10 becomes 2nd and 10 becomes 3rd and 9. And all of a sudden, here it comes. I don't care how good Matthew Stafford is. You're not going to convert a bunch of 3rd and 9s. That's the thing. Top of the list for the next 10 games. If they don't find a way to run the ball, at least on an average level, maybe even slightly below average, but they can't be the worst running team in the league. And that's nearly what they are right now. That has to change. Speaking of the offense and it not working all that great, what happens if Cooper Kupp can't go? An injury update on him, that's coming up next on Locked On Rams. So let's talk a little bit about PrizePicks. It is daily fantasy that is fun, it is easy, and for my money, it's just incredibly fun to do, and it's not complicated, right? That there are so many different plays. Well, you got to know this line, you got to know that line, and what about this? And no, not at PrizePicks. That's not how it is. When you make entries on PrizePick, you decide to look at one of the entries and the projections, I should say, and decide whether that one's going to go more or less. Patrick Mahomes, more or less than 320. Have an opinion on that? Derrick Henry, more or less than 85. Cooper Kupp, more or less than a half a touchdown. Tyreek Hill, more or less than 3.5 receptions. This is what PrizePicks is. You don't have to know anything other than what you think is going to go there. You pick 2 to 5 players. If they score more or less than their PrizePicks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. You're not competing against 1,000 other people, 100 other people, 10 other people. Nope, it's just you against the projections available. PrizePicks offers projections on any sport that you watch, the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, golf, college football. If you like it, PrizePicks has you covered. It can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. It's safe, and it's easy to withdraw your money. Here's how you do it. Download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. And first-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code Locked On. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks will give you $50. So don't forget to enter that promo code Locked On and sign up for an instant deposit match of $100. Thanks again for making Locked On Rams your first listen today. For your second listen today, check out Locked On Sports Today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks again for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single day. My name is Travis Rogers. Go ahead and click that subscribe button in your podcast feed. All right, let's talk about the Cooper Kupp ankle injury that was suffered with under 2 minutes to go in the game. The Rams were not going to win. They were not going to come back. The game was all but officially over, and yet he was still out there. He gets tackled, he gets rolled up on, and he has an ankle injury. And now the good news is this is what is being described as a low ankle sprain as opposed to the dreaded high ankle sprain that is basically the kiss of death for really any athlete, but a football player in particular. They say that he has some swelling. I've seen him describe his day-to-day. Sean McVay also says that he thinks that he'll be okay, and he is expected to play on Sunday against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Okay, good. That's good news. I'm glad that he's healthy. I'm glad that he should be ready to go. No one has ever questioned Cooper Kupp's toughness. No one has ever questioned Cooper Kupp's desire or ability to play, but it was just beyond stupid to have him out there on the field at the end of the game. This just goes to show how off the Rams are right now, how off they are as an offense, how off they were on Sunday as a defense, how off they've been as a coaching staff, Sean McVay in particular. I've done, I don't know how many hundreds of Locked On Rams pods, but a bunch. And I'm a Sean McVay guy. I think he's great. I think he's a difference maker. I think he's one of the very small handful of coaches in the NFL that is worth it, right? That you get him, you win more games, full stop. It's a bad move. It was a bad move to have him out there. He knows it. He said afterwards that, I don't know what I was thinking. I need to do better. I'm glad that he got all right, that he's all right. Because if they lose him, that's it. Like, what did we just talk about the last segment? This is a team that cannot run the ball. This is a team that until the last couple of games, and even including the last couple of games, has not really been able to get Allen Robinson going in any meaningful way. That's not the way that it's been anticipated. Van Jefferson, who we'll talk about coming up in a little bit, has done nothing for the team this year, did nothing for the team on Sunday against the Rams. Cooper Kupp is your offense, full stop. He's got 64 catches through 7 games. That's nearly 10 a game, right? He's got 686 yards. That's nearly 100 yards a game. He's got 5 touchdowns this season. That's nearly 1 a game. Without him, you've got nothing. With him, you've basically got an offense that is terribly underperforming. If he were to miss any sort of time, really stop and think about this. Not just, oh, yeah, that would be bad. Stop and think about this. What do the Rams do if Cooper Kupp doesn't play? Now, again, he's very likely to play on Sunday against the Bucs. But let's just say he takes a hit. It's football. Guys get hurt. It happens all the time, right? Unfortunately, guys go down. You never know when it's going to happen. You knock on wood and hope that it doesn't happen to your most important players, but it does sometimes. What do the Rams do? Who's he going to throw it to? You think Allen Robinson's going to pick up that slack? You think that Van Jefferson or Ben Skoranek or Tyler Higbee are going to go to the Ronnie Rivers run offense? Is Darrell Henderson going to carry it 30? No, it doesn't exist. That's why that decision to have him out there. And I get it. There's a million things that you got to figure out in any given moment in an NFL football game, and you're trying to win and everything else. But you need to know when it's over. You need to know when it's time to say, listen, we quit. We give up. I know, never quit. Yeah, no, there is a time to quit. The quit is when you're down 17 points, there's 2 minutes left on the clock, and if number 10's out there and he gets hurt, your season ends. That's when it's time to quit. And they didn't. Kupp's not going to quit. The players are never going to, Coach, this thing's over. I'm not going in. It's not going to be like that. You need to tell them, no, you're coming out. No, I don't want to come out. You're coming out. We got a game against the Bucs. We got to get back to 4-4. We got to find a way to get this done. And if I don't have you, it ain't happening. That's not what happened. They put him back out. There's a huge mistake. They probably dodged a bullet, but that's about as close as. And look, let's say that ankle is giving him a little trouble. Let's say he's 20% less effective than he typically is. You think the Rams have 20% of their offense to just kind of slide off to the side? This is not the team that we've seen in previous years where, okay, this guy's not quite there, but we're still going to find a way to get to 27, 30, 35 points. No, they're struggling to get to 14. They're struggling to get to 20. 10 seems like they've been shut out 3 times in the second half this year. This is an offense that has nothing to spare, and certainly nothing to spare with Cooper Kupp. Very, very lucky. Sean McVay, one of the biggest mistakes I've seen him make as a head coach in this league, having him out there. Because if that had gone differently, this is just it's a wrap. See, the 2022 season is up in smoke at that point. We're hanging by a thread as it is right now, but it's up in smoke. All right, so staying with the wide receivers. Van Jefferson, welcome back. Where were you? That's coming up next on Locked On Rams. All right, let's talk a little bit about our friends from BetOnline. Here's what's coming up week 9 for the Rams. They're on the road in Tampa. They are 3-point underdogs, which feels about right. These are two teams that are not playing very well. You get 3 points for the home field, so that feels right. The over-under, 42.5. The Rams feel like they could be out there for the next 5 years, and I don't know if they're getting to their share of 42.5. 14 shutout for the third time in the second half this season. No bueno. But all of that information and more, betonline.net, of course, is your number one source for betting, football betting, and the start of new basketball season lines as well. Find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth analysis of every game. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all of your sports wagering information, live betting, and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events, including Major League Baseball, MMA, boxing, golf as well. Head to the website and use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, so all of these things kind of come together today, right? These are all offensive issues. We talked about how they're unable to run the ball, which they're not. Again, let me say, Darrell Henderson leads the team in rushing. He doesn't have 200 yards on the season. He played 7 games. He's averaging less than 30 yards per game. He's their best guy. You know, maybe Cam Akers, you could argue, is their best guy, but he's good luck, right? We talked about Cooper Kupp, and if he's not able to go or at least not be able to perform at his absolute best, what does this offense look like? Which brings us to this. Van Jefferson made his return to the Rams on Sunday against the San Francisco 49ers. I was very optimistic about having him back. I think that Van Jefferson's a really good football player. I was talking to some folks around the team, and they insist that he's the fastest player on the team. You know, Tutu, the high-end speed, and he's the guy here that can break them, all these sorts of deals. Nope, Van Jefferson's fastest straight-line, high-end speed guy on this team. They have used him, right? They've hit him for big touchdowns. They throw him. It felt like for the last couple of seasons, obviously not this season, but on that opening drive or two, there was always a good 15, 20, 25-yard play to Van Jefferson that would pick up a first down. Now, all of a sudden, it opens up the field a little bit. Okay, here comes Robert Woods. Here comes Cooper Kupp or OBJ or whoever else might have been out there. Kind of open things up for everybody along the way. I was very hopeful that when he came back against the Niners that would continue. It did not. Not only did it not happen, it didn't exist. He never caught a pass. He was never thrown a pass. I understand that maybe you ease him back in a little bit, but if he's on the field, and he was, if he's healthy and cleared to play, and he was, let's try to get him the ball a little bit. I know that we're trying to get Allen Robinson engaged. And again, Robinson had 5 catches against Carolina, much, much better. Robinson had 5 catches against the San Francisco 49ers, much, much better as well, including that one down the right side that we talked about a couple of pods ago. That was a beautiful catch, beautiful throw. So he's coming along, but it's still 5 catches. It's not 15 catches. Cooper Kupp can only do so much. He's going to need some help. And Van Jefferson was supposed to be, they didn't even look at him. This is the part that is so weird about this team. I understand the line's not great, so you don't have a lot of time. I understand that the running game isn't great, so you're incredibly one-dimensional. I get these things, but it can't just be snap the ball, throw it to Kupp, snap the ball, throw it to Kupp, snap the ball, throw it to Kupp, snap the ball, throw it to Allen Robinson. Okay, and then back to Kupp for 3 more tries. There's one to Higbee. You got to have other options. You got to have some guys that you trust. Certainly Van Jefferson, I think, would have fallen into that category of people that you trust along the way, but maybe not. Maybe he just wasn't quite where he needs to be yet, but he's going to need to be there on Sunday against the Bucs. They're going to need to get him the ball. You cannot continue doing what you're doing offensively. First of all, you're putting a tremendous amount of pressure on your defense, which for the most part has been up to it. They weren't against San Francisco. Did what San Francisco always does. They just mauled them, right? And just, here we go, put up 31 points. Christian McCaffrey was great. Hat trick, touchdown, throwing, catching, receiving, or running, I should say. And the Rams couldn't get anything done. But against everybody other than San Francisco, the defense has been somewhere between good enough to very good. You're going to have to find some offense. It's just inside out and upside down. And a team coached by Sean McVay can't score. A team coached by Sean McVay can't move the ball. Van Jefferson has to get involved in that. They have to find a way to get him the ball and Higbee the ball and Robinson the ball. It cannot be the Cooper Kupp show. Hopefully the second game back after returning from injury for Van Jefferson becomes the more normal look. And so, I mean, I could have been out there. You could have been out there. Everybody that got 0 looks and 0 catches could have been out there because that's exactly what Van Jefferson had. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Rams. Thanks for making us your first listen. Now, for your next listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today pod, the biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. It's available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.